Have you found yourself in multiple toxic relationships? Do you feel as though you're suffering with codependency? And you're feeling as though you're losing your personal identity? If you are, there's things you can do to change that, to reverse that, and to end the toxic cycle. Watch this video as I explain how to do just that. Hey there friends, Ashley Berges here today. And today I want to talk about how the way that we were raised to value ourselves based on doing things for other people or being a certain way to someone else allows us to have value instead of us having value on our own, has led us into the toxic cycles, has helped us to create that codependency, and has also helped us to stay on the path of losing our identity. Many of you out there believe that your value is directly proportionate to what you do for others, to how you treat other people, to what you give them, and that your value is based on how you help others or the things that you do for others, if you're being a savior to them or what you're doing that directly reflects your value, right? But that's the flaw. Yes, is it right to treat other people with respect? Yes, is it right to do the right thing by other people? Sure. But our value is not directly reflected on that. Our value comes from within. And that's something that many of us were never taught by our parents because they didn't know that information as well. They saw the fact that what they did or what they gave or whatever directly related to their value because their value was something outside of themselves and that they didn't have value just in being themselves. And so on today's video, I really want to explain that. I want to go through that inherent flaw of how we were raised and how that directly relates back to entering into the toxic relationships, being in those toxic relationships that are manipulative and that take away our power, but also how we find ourselves codependent, where we feel as though we don't have a personal identity. And there's a reason for that, because we don't. When we don't have our own identity and it's always been derived by other people and how they feel about us and what we do for them to gain our value, we've never found our value from within. And so let's talk about that right now. So the way that we can begin to flip the script on this is to get to know ourselves. Okay, this is interesting. Getting to know ourselves seems to be one of the most difficult things that many people ever do in their life. And why is it so difficult? It's so difficult because we don't even realize that we're supposed to be getting to know ourselves. I mean, think about it. How often do you meet somebody and within 2 hours you know their life story? You know why they did this, you know why they moved there, you know why they took this job, you know how many brothers and sisters they have, you know the problems with their mom or their dad, you know all this information. You know their beliefs, their values. But what do you know about yourself? Have you taken the time to really get to analyze yourself and understand why you make certain choices? To understand why you feel a certain way? Most of us haven't. And I want to paint a picture for you real quick because I think this picture will gain some knowledge into what I'm talking about. So I want you to picture this. You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, right? You're in total silence. And there's someone else sitting on the couch with you. A friend of yours, and you don't speak to them. You don't speak to them for hours, okay? And at one point in time, you look around and you go, God, I'm so freaking bored. I'm so isolated. I'm so lonely. I'm so bored. How do you think that other person sitting on the couch with you is going to feel when you're not even speaking to them? You don't get to know them. You don't get to understand them. You don't listen to them. You don't do anything about it. You just sit there in isolation. Now I want you to think about it. This other person on the couch is you. When we sit there and we don't ever think about ourselves and we just look at ourselves as being lonely, it's just us. Well, what good is that? And we're just waiting for the phone to ring. God bless, let the phone ring. Let somebody text me and let them tell me that they're doing something so I can get out of here and get away from being by myself. I can't stand being by myself. I hate it. It's horrible. Okay? Why is it so horrible to be by yourself? Because you've never gotten to know yourself. You don't even know what you stand for. Think about it. So it's like the one stranger in your room is you. And the only way that we can get to change this is by opening the dialogue with ourselves, getting to know ourselves, being an absolute friend to ourselves. Think about the way that you treat your friends. Think about the way that you treat people that don't even treat you well versus how you treat yourself. Okay. So I want to tell you exactly how I did it. And then I want to tell you about the first steps to making this a reality. Quite a while back, I was in a relationship, engaged, not happy, and it was a very similar feeling as the previous relationship before that one, and the previous one before that one, and the previous one before that one. And I decided that I was going to break up the relationship, move out, get my own place, and start rethinking my life, because I knew the problem wasn't all him, okay? The problem was also with me. And so when I moved out, got my own place, and I lived with just myself and my dog, I realized that there were things about myself that I didn't understand. I had never taken the time to even get to understand what makes me tick. I hadn't even taken the time to understand my real values. Like when I would go on a date with somebody, like in an hour, I would know the stuff that I didn't really even know about myself. I was more interested in getting to know somebody that I randomly met at an event or a bar than I was about knowing me. And so I decided I was going to take like a few weeks and just figure it out, get to know myself and work on myself. And I started to do that, but there were so many distractions. People calling all the time, wanting to go out, that sort of thing. And I realized that I had to minimize the distractions to actually begin to hear my inner voice and to work with myself. And so that's what I did, is I would go to work, I would come home, I would make dinner, and I would spend time getting to know me. And I started doing a lot of journaling. And it was interesting because I started realizing that I didn't know who I was. I mean, obviously, I know my name, and I know where I came from, and I know my school, and I know all that kind of stuff. But I didn't know what really was important to me. I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know what my beliefs were. I didn't know what my values were. I mean, I kind of did, but I never really thought about it. I mean, when I would talk to somebody else, they would tell me, you know, what they believed in and their core beliefs. But I never really thought about that when it came to me. And I never really saw the value of understanding that information. I mean, think about how important that information is. Otherwise, we wouldn't ask that information of other people. We wouldn't try to get to know them, right? Isn't it interesting how we try to get to know other people, but we really just don't do that with ourselves? And we were taught not to, remember? We were taught that our value directly reflects on what we do for others. And that if we're not doing things for others or saving them or taking care of them, that we have no value. Okay, so we're really flipping the script on that. So the first thing that I began to do is I got rid of those distractions. So I wasn't just going out to go out. I wasn't just hanging out on the phone to talk about nonsense instead of looking at myself. And I wasn't trying to help everybody else with their problems. I was actually looking at my problems. And I realized that, as we all know, it's easier to see someone else's issues and to help them find resolve because you're not close to it. We have our blind spots, right? And so I wanted to find my blind spots. And the first thing that I began to do is to define my personal beliefs and values, okay? It's like the bedrock. It defines who you are, okay? It's kind of like your MO. And it's really about what you believe in, what you value, and those things that you consider non-negotiables. Because many of us know we get to know people within a few hours. We know their beliefs and values, right? We understand them, we get it, and we understand where they stand, right? But we don't understand where we stand in the situation. So I began to journal and really think about it. What are my beliefs? What are my values? What are those bedrock things? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? And one of the things that I realized is that, you know, I have a belief in God, and I believe that there's an afterlife. Like, I don't believe that we get in a box and we die. I don't believe in that, okay? And it's okay if you do, it's just not what I believe in. And that's a non-negotiable with me. And what I mean by that is when I'm meeting other people that are going to be close to me, or a possible love interest relationship, I want to be on that similar page with that person, right? Their God can be different, looking different, whatever, and their afterlife thought process can be different as well, right? but we both agree that those things do exist. So I'm not trying to explain my belief and have that dissipated and have my energy be dissipated when trying to explain that to get somebody else to believe my intention. I want somebody to kind of already be there. And a good example that I had is I was working at that time, and a bunch of us coworkers went out to grab a bite, and it was interesting. We were all talking, and one of the coworkers looked at me and said, "Hey, by the way, do you believe in God?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is a little deep right now." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I don't, so why don't you prove to me that your God exists?" Okay. I don't have to prove anything, and I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to prove my non-negotiables, okay? And that's something that I sat back and I told him, I said, "I'm not really want to argue with you. I'm not really interested." And he said, "Well, if your God's real, you need to defend your God." And I said, "You know what? I don't need to defend anything. I don't need to go here because this is not my debate to have. And if we can, let's just step back and, we work together, let's have fun." But he kept going back and forth on that. And I realized that that was not something that I wanted to deal with in my life. I didn't have to prove to him one thing or another. It wasn't mine to prove. It was him to accept or to open his mind or to decide what he wanted to do. But I did not need to change him. Okay. And that was another belief that I realized, is that I don't want to deal with a situation where somebody's looking to change me or I'm looking to change them. And those were definite non-negotiables and things that I want you to think about. And this could be various things for you. One of your real core beliefs could be the belief of, having freedom and feeling free to make your own decisions. That can be a really core belief. It's a core belief for me. And so that would be a definite suggestion of being in a very healthy relationship, because in order to make your own decisions and to feel very much freedom in a relationship, the other person has to feel the same way too. So you can't enter into a relationship where somebody has that codependency or doesn't want to give you that freedom, because that's a non-negotiable. You see what I'm saying? So I really got to know what made me tick. I realized that, what I really cared about and my motivation, which is really powerful. And I realized that much like a character in a film that we fall in love with, we are characters too, right? And so we got to figure out exactly what makes us tick. And so it's interesting when we realize the reasons why we're on this planet, or at least we start understanding or trying to define those things. Just even thinking about that stuff makes us a richer human being, right? Because we start understanding things and nuances, and we start getting to know ourselves. Also, the fact of having a purpose-driven life. I mean, many of us don't know our purpose, and we're looking for that purpose. But to be looking for it and to understand our purpose is valuable in and of itself. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we're looking into ourselves, trying to figure out what it is that we are supposed to be doing in this lifetime on this planet. And these are the bedrock of our beliefs. Now, I also feel that these beliefs that we create and the beliefs that we stand behind in our life are also the bedrock of our boundaries. Okay? Because when we know what we believe in, and we know what we value, and these are our non-negotiables, these are the boundaries that we live with. Meaning, when we're in toxic relationships and we don't know our beliefs and our morals, and we don't have that defining definition, we sacrifice these things because we're either out of desperation for a relationship, right? So we're desperate to have a relationship that we don't care what we have to deal with. We just want somebody else there, right? The other thing is that we really don't value ourselves as a human being. We don't see our value, and so we'll sacrifice anything. Okay, and so that's why this is so important. So this is going to do multiple things for you. It's going to help define who you are. It's going to help you understand your intent and motivation. It's going to help you to understand what makes you tick. It's going to help define you as an individual, but it's also going to help you to create positive boundaries in your life that you are not going to step over, because these non-negotiables are things that you want to have a healthy, happy life. And you're not desperate for a relationship because you're beginning to see your true value. In upcoming videos, we're going to be talking about the next steps. This is the first step to understanding and beginning to explore you as a human being, you as a person, you as a unique being. We will be creating multiple videos in the same direction. This is the first step, creating that knowledge and that belief system and understanding that bedrock, right? The non-negotiables. And then we will go incremental steps upwards, going through the process of understanding how to be your best friend, how to get to understand who you are, and how that benefits you, because what? It lessens the codependency, we are not desperate anymore, so we find ourselves in, well, ending the toxic cycle, and we begin to realize our true value isn't based on what we do for others, it's also based on getting to know ourselves and what we do for us. I hope this video has helped you. Please share it with your family and friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Also, give us a like if you like this video. And in the comment section below, let me know, have you done this exercise? Or are you currently going to do this exercise after watching this video? I'd love to know what you learn about yourself. What are some of the non-negotiables that you have that are defining you? Because once we're able to define ourselves better, we see our personal value, and we begin to have that unconditional self-love. Well, I look forward to seeing you soon, and don't forget to live your true life.